it's a tactic of raising the stake, raising the rhetorical stakes, making it more emotional. There's been a trajectory here. Before genocide, we had cultural genocide. Thank you, Drea, and also a big thanks to Ezra for inviting me. I have many distinguished former students, but there's only one Ezra. So I want to keep my remarks brief because I want to leave time for some questions. And I don't see a clock anywhere, but I'll... Oh, okay, digital clock. Yeah, okay, got it. Okay, so our story for today begins with the announcement on May 27th, 2021 from the Kamloops First Nation that they had found the remains of 215 unmarked former students buried in unmarked graves in the apple orchard. And as you all know, this fake news swept the country. The legacy media in Canada were really complicit in this. They simply did not do their job of journalism. They should have asked some elementary questions. The remains were allegedly found through the use of ground-penetrating radar, which is a valid technique that's used in geology and archaeology, but it can't tell you what's under there. It only tells you there's been some disturbance underneath the ground. So the media should have asked, well, who did the work? Who did this GPR work? Where is the written report? What can GPR actually do? What are its limitations? And who are these missing children? What are their names? Were they from the Kamloops Indian Residential School? Were they from other schools? You know, there is no list of missing children who attended residential schools. There's a list of children who died there tragically over a period of more than a century. There were deaths, but there is no list of missing children. And the media didn't ask any of these questions. They just ran with the story, and then they amplified it, particularly the New York Times, which is supposed to be the best newspaper in the world, but unfortunately, some days its standards are lower than those of a high school newspaper. The New York Times reported that a mass grave had been found in Kamloops, and mass grave, you know, connotes something like from a war zone with a big open pit and bodies thrown in. I mean, there's nothing of that type there. So the media uncritically ran with the story, as did the politicians. Above all, our Prime Minister, who decreed that the Canadian flag should be flown at half-mast for the next 6 months, wasn't taken down until November. You know, we didn't have anything like that even in the First and Second World Wars, when tens of thousands of Canadians were being killed. You know, it's completely nonsensical. So as this story swept over the country, there was some pushback against it. Drea was perhaps the first to push back with her documentary. Others of us were maybe a bit slower off the mark, but I got in touch with a group of people that I knew who were interested in this subject and joined an email chat group, and we started publishing critiques of what I call the Kamloops narrative, asking the questions that should have been asked in the first place. And we found it was impossible to publish in the legacy media, CBC, CTV, Global TV, Globe and Mail, National Post, and on and, well, of course, Toronto Star and so on, which is, you know, pretty strange because I've been publishing in the legacy media for the last 50 years. I'd been a columnist at different times for the Globe and Mail and for the National Post, and appeared on CBC panels regularly. And suddenly nobody wanted to hear what we were saying. So we published in the alternative media, True North, C2C, Dorchester Review, some others, some in other countries. Anybody that would publish what we wanted to say. And then we pulled together what we thought were the best critiques that we wrote into a book called Grave Error, which Drea mentioned. And that was published by True North Media Company and sold only through Amazon. True North isn't really a book publisher, and they don't have the machinery to ship to bookstores and so forth. So they just let Amazon do all the retailing. And, you know, that's pretty good, actually. Amazon's the world's biggest retailer, so it's a good place to have your book be sold. And it's done very well there, very successful in its sales. So have we had any effect in our critique of the Kamloops narrative about the unmarked graves and the missing children and all of that? Well, maybe a little bit. I don't know whether you noticed this or not, but in May of 2024, the Kamloops First Nation walked back their story somewhat. Instead of talking about unmarked graves and missing children, they said in 3 years previously, ground-penetrating radar had found soil anomalies, which is what they should have said in the first place and left it at that. There hasn't yet been a single sign of an actual burial produced. Not a body, not a shroud, not a casket, nothing. An absolute zero for physical evidence. All there is the GPR report, which nobody has seen, and the investigator who is not allowed to do interviews with the media. So anyway, they walked it back a little bit, but the story is now so well entrenched in the media that the media continue to report, to talk about the unmarked graves and all the rest of it as if the critique had never been made. So there's still an awful lot of work to be done.
Oh, hi, it's Ezra Levant here in Toronto with an important message because we need your help. Independent journalism in Canada is under attack. Government censors, big tech deplatformers, and the dying legacy media are all working together to maintain exclusive control on the information you receive. They don't want you to hear other voices like ours, and they really don't want you to be informed and to think for yourself. That's why the work we do here at Rebel News is so important. Our on-the-ground reporting, independent news shows, and special content you won't find anywhere else. It's all designed to give you trustworthy information and alternative viewpoints so you can decide for yourself. We don't get government money, and we are not owned by some big global conglomerate. We're funded by people just like you, so please support independent journalism and help us continue our work by subscribing and becoming a Rebel News Plus member today, right here on the page. Go to rebelnewsplus.com. Members get instant access to all of our shows, invitations to exclusive events, and access to our premium content like live event footage and documentaries you won't see anywhere else. Only Rebel News Plus members can join the conversation by participating in the comments section of our new website. That way you can have your say too. More than anything though, you'll be able to take pride in supporting real, honest journalism, and you'll help our talented team continue to do the work to push back on the establishment. We really can use your help. We need it, in fact. So thank you, and enjoy Rebel News Plus.